the Adidas Takumi Sen 9 and the new Adios 8. Two very good shoes, but two very different shoes. And chances are, you don't need both of them. You're watching this video for one of two reasons. You own this shoe, the Adidas Takumi Sen 9, possibly the 8. For the sake of this video, the 8 and 9 are the same shoe. And you're wondering if you need this shoe, the new Adidas Adios 8, or you're looking at both of these shoes and you're trying to figure out which one's going to be right for you. The best place to start to answer that question is to look at the specs of both shoes. Now, I will say that these two shoes are not an apples to apples comparison. These are two very different shoes and very different types of shoes. And I think by looking at the specs, we can really begin to see why. So if we start with the Takumi Sen 9, for all intents and purposes, the Takumi Sen 9 is a modern super shoe. It's got a full super foam midsole. It's got rods. In this case, they're carbon infused rods. They're not full carbon rods. And they only really are in the forefoot. They run from the midfoot into the forefoot. But the Takumi Sen 9 is a super shoe. It may be a slightly lower stack super shoe, but it is a super shoe. So we have 33 mil in the heel, 27 mil in the forefoot with a 6 mil drop. It weighs 6.6 ounces or 187 grams. It's a very lightweight, very snappy super shoe that is really a stripped down race shoe. Like I said, full Light Strike Pro and carbon infused energy rods. It's all of the latest tech, and it's a modern geometry to roll you forward. So it has a mild toe spring, a beveled heel, a slight rocker, and the rods in there to help propel you forward. Now, if we're looking at the Adios 8, this is a very different shoe. We are looking at a modern take on a traditional racing flat. Now we have multiple foams in the midsole. We have a new torsion shank in the, I would almost call the outsole. And overall, this is a much more minimal shoe already on top of the stripped down Takumi Sen. So we have 28 mil in the heel, 20 mil in the forefoot with an 8 mil drop, and we have 7.2 ounces or 205 grams. So the Adios 8 is deceptively a little bit heavier than the Takumi Sen, but to be fair, both of these are very lightweight shoes, and the Takumi Sen is kind of ridiculously lightweight in the first place. But the Adios 8 is a mix of Light Strike Pro only in the forefoot, and you have the new Light Strike 2.0 in the midfoot in the heel, and it's a very traditional racing flat geometry in both how it fits on the foot and how it feels to run in, meaning there is almost no toe spring in here, though with the addition of this new torsion shank that Adidas has put in this shoe, there is a slight toe spring in there, which you feel on toe off. But for all intents and purposes, the way this shoe fits on the foot, it's very flat, very traditional, doesn't have much of a bevel in the heel. There's very little toe spring, and there's no rocker to roll you forward. You are propelling yourself forward in this shoe from your own effort. You're not letting the shoe roll you forward like a modern super shoe. The next key thing to talk about is how these shoes fit. Now, this is the Takumi Sen 9. As I said, this is a super shoe, not only a super shoe, but this is a stripped down race shoe. This shoe is meant to go fast and really do nothing else. Therefore, the fit of the shoe is very traditional Adidas in the sense that it's a very narrow, especially in the midfoot, especially in the forefoot as well, and it's long. Now, it's not extreme like some Adidas shoes have been in the past, but this is very much a long, narrow shoe that has an upper that is very much a race fit. Has a very floppy tongue, which takes a lot of finesse to get in the right place. But once you get all the lockdown done, this upper is exceptionally good at locking your foot in and keeping you on top of this amazing sort of midsole with the energy rods and this great outsole. And again, it's not a comfortable shoe to wear. It's not a fun shoe to wear, but it's fast. And it's fun because it is so fast, but it is not the most comfortable of shoes. Whereas with the Adios 8, we have a very different sort of vibe going on in this shoe. Now the upper is all of the same materials, and in fact, the uppers between these two shoes are very similar in how they are stripped down, and they're not the abomination that the Adios Pro 3 upper is. These are both very good uppers, and they share the same materials. However, in the Adios 8, this shares the one good thing about the Adios Pro 3's upper in that it is a much more generous fit. So the midfoot and forefoot in this shoe is much wider. This has that wider last that the Adios Pro 3 is built on. So you have a lot more room in the forefoot of this shoe to let your toes splay, to really engage the foot with the midsole of the shoe, and overall have a lot more comfort in the forefoot of your foot. The midsole, like I said, is more generous than the Takumi Sen, but I would not call it a generous midsole. It is narrow, and the heel is very narrow. So this shoe fits me well, but I don't have a wide foot, and I don't have a particularly long foot either. This shoe does fit me very well, and to get it locked down because of the better tongue in this, and you can kind of see that there's elastic bands on this tongue that you can kind of see right here. This shoe is much easier to get your foot in, get a good lockdown, get the tongue in the right place, and really sort of get the shoe on your foot. Much better at that, much more comfortable, therefore much more versatile. So the next comparison I can make was trying to quantify my feelings with real data. So I created a workout that's kind of a mishmash of a bunch of things to kind of test these shoes both through the types of running that I would expect to be able to do in both of them. So the workout consisted of 4x1 minutes at 3:48 per km or 6:07 per mile, which is my current 5K pace. Not the fastest 5K, but I'm just starting speed work right now for the summer. It's kind of why I need speed work, because that needs to get better. Followed by a 2x1K at 4:19 per km or 6:57 per mile, which is about my current marathon pace. Again, not the fastest, but needs to get better. That's why I'm doing speed work. Followed and ending the workout with 4x200 meters at around 40 seconds. Not the fastest 200 meters, but that's sort of, for me right now, that's a threshold sort of all-out effort. I also did this workout on the road, on sort of my normal out and back running loop that I always run on. That is a mix of hills, good pavement, bad pavement, off camber, some wet areas that are always slippery. Basically, it's a mix of a bunch of stuff because I'm a road runner, I'm a marathoner. I would expect either one of these shoes to perform workouts in those conditions. This was not done on a pristine track, which is the point. So I also did these over 2 consecutive days, starting with the Takumi Sen 9. So with the Takumi Sen 9 on the 4x1 minutes, I ended up with a 3:49, 3:50, 3:45, 3:49. Again, none of them are really on the mark. I had that one that was a little faster. Again, nothing really surprising here. In the Adios 8, I did 3:44, 3:45, 3:46, 3:48. So slightly faster, but I would expect that. And let me get through the other 2 times, and I'll come back and tell you why I'm not surprised that the Adios 8 is a little faster here. On the 2x1K, the Takumi Sen, I did that in 4:21 and 4:17, and in the Adios 8, I did that in 4:23 and 4:21. Again, the Takumi Sen is a little faster here, which I would expect. I'll come back to that. And then for the 200s, I did the 4 200s in the Takumi Sen in 41, 39, 43, 41. And in the Adios 8, I did 38, 39, 39, 37. So faster. Now, like I said, I'm not really surprised about these sort of 3 different types. The 4x1 minute and the 4x200 meters, those are the typical, as a marathoner, short, hard, fast interval workouts that I typically will do, mostly on the road, but I will do those on the track. Like I said, this was not done on a track. This was done on the road. Whereas the 2x1Ks are something that I would do generally in a longer run, and I'm generally going to do that in the shoe I'm going to be racing a marathon in. So the reason I'm not surprised that the Adios is faster for the shorter, harder stuff is that I typically prefer to do that stuff in a more flexible, more natural shoe. I've always, for the past year or so, I've done those in the Nike Streak Fly because I want to feel driving into the ground. I want to feel my foot flexing. I want to push into the ground and then feel myself pushing off. I want to do the work. I don't want the shoe doing the work for me. Whereas on the 2x1K, that's a little bit longer, relatively speaking. And a modern super shoe that's meant to roll me forward, the super foam of the midsole with the plate, or in this case, the energy rods of the Takumi Sen, helping, get me up on my toes and toe off and just roll me forward. I would expect a modern super shoe to do that longer stuff better. So I'm not surprised the Takumi Sen was faster there. Where I am surprised, though, is that the Adios 8 is not that far off from the Takumi Sen in those 2x1Ks. That was a bit of a surprise to me. What's the verdict here? Well, I can honestly say that both of these shoes are great. But what's going to work best for you really comes down to what you're looking to accomplish with one of these shoes. If you are a 5K racer, someone who only races 5K, this is going to be your shoe. This is the faster shoe. This is probably going to be your race shoe. This is the shoe you're going to want to strap on to go crush a new PR in a 5K. Hands down. This may actually be the fastest 5K racer there is, probably even a little bit faster than a Vaporfly 3. This shoe is just all out speed, and on the 5K distance, it's great. On the same token, if you are a 5K racer, you probably want to pick this up too as your trainer to do some of the track work, to do some of the interval work, to make this more effective when you're racing it. So these shoes will kind of go together for you if you race a 5K. Now, if you are a marathoner like myself and you're looking for one of these shoes to be your workout shoe, I think it's a no-brainer. It's this shoe. It's the Adios 8. This is the better workout shoe for someone who does half to full marathons. Even better if you race in the Adios Pro 3. This is such a good training partner to that, in that the last and the way this shoe fits and feels is very similar to the Adios Pro 3 as far as the wider forefoot, the narrower heel, that there is a connection between this shoe as a trainer to the racer of the Adios Pro 3. Throw in a Boston 12 as sort of your daily shoe, maybe one that you can do some of the longer tempo in. Between an Adios Pro, a Boston 12, and the Adios 8, you've got all bases covered as a great marathon rotation. You basically don't need this shoe. Now, if you're someone who sort of races a lot of distances, I'm going to be totally honest, you're probably not picking this shoe as your race shoe in the first place. You're probably going to pick something like a Vaporfly that is a little bit more versatile, that will let you do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, maybe a marathon. This shoe is great for 5Ks. Personally, I wouldn't pick this for a 10K. I'd definitely pick a Vaporfly, and I wouldn't even consider this for a half marathon, though I know some elites have raced half marathons in this. I would still pick the Vaporfly over that. And for a marathon, this shoe's not really intended for a marathon anyway, so I wouldn't even consider it. All that being said, though, if it comes down to you're only going to buy one of these shoes, regardless of everything I just said, I think this is the better shoe. For me, for almost all purposes of what I would need a trainer for, a fast trainer for, it's going to be this shoe. And if I had to go race a 5K tomorrow and I couldn't wear Vaporflies, I would wear this because it's not going to be much slower than the Takumi Sen for me. And that's kind of amazing. This shoe is very versatile, very fun to run in, and I think you'll get a ton of value for the amount this shoe costs compared to the Takumi Sen 9. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you're new here, subscribe. You'll see more content like this pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow and this content gets seen by more people, which I will always be appreciative of. And with that, I will see you in the next one.